So, I had intended to, write us a script for a promo, but it totally whiffed my brain. What do you think we should have in a promo?
Do you like scary stuff talked about by a bunch of
I feel like others might be hesitant to use a promo with the word in it.
I don't say it in mixed company.
Let's just start with, I'm Nick, I'm Katie, the host of the Business Spirit Podcast. And then...
I think it's better if you just do both the voices. I'm Nick McDonald. I'm Kate McDonald. This is the Business Spirits Podcast.
Well, I mean, there's 1,000 podcasts of people talking spooky shit drinking.
Exactly.
The only thing that differentiates us is...
We're shit shows.
We're shit shows. And we have the original cocktail angle. That was the main thing.
Do you like gins and gin? Have you ever had booze and booze?
Do you like spirits and spirits?
I feel like there's something you can make here.
Do you like to mix Everclear with the Ever After?
Somebody watching you while you're drinking White Claw. Have you ever seen an apparition on Long Island while drinking Long Island iced tea? My sobriety hurts.
Whether you pee yourself from terror or pee yourself from laughing, you're gonna pee yourself.
Or pee yourself because you drank too much.
There you go. We the trifecta of peeing yourself. The Booze and Spirits Podcast, the trifecta of peeing yourself. Available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and wherever finer podcasts are sold.
I was just about to give you back your license for jokes and japes, and I feel like you...
No, I need the 2 minutes. It's good every time you give me the 2 minutes. But everyone's like, oh, fuck, we've already fucked around for like an hour. What, 2 minutes is going to be too much, Chris? And I'm like, then I give you fucking gold.
Does this count as the 2 minutes?
Yeah. Yes, very much so.
Alright.
Beer almost came out of my nose because of that, Jerry.
Sometimes you can't rush genius. I'm not so much like a Mozart. This stuff doesn't just... I suffer for my art,
Yes.
Jerry. I suffer for my comedic... so I guess this is it. This is what we're opening with. Hey, everybody, we are the HistoryBoiz. I am Christopher Whedon, tortured genius of comedy. I told them that I need their support. I need certain things to give you guys just the hilarious jokes and japes and jives that I bring to the table every time we record. But they're not doing it this time. They rushed me, and that's why this isn't funny.
Yeah, we
refuse. That's on Jerry.
Yeah.
If you're like, Chris is terrible this episode, Jerry didn't give me what I needed.
No. I didn't give him his precious...
So email Jerry at jerrynash. buttliquor@historyboiz.com and tell him that I need 2 minutes before the show every time.
Of complete silence.
Yeah. Yeah, they keep making these chuckling noises. And
he needs to think about his whole life before he records.
Yeah. A regular Dewey Cox.
Yeah, exactly.
I can do it in 2 minutes.
Hi, folks. Tyler Armentrout, History Boy here. Glad to be doing another episode with my compatriots. Nay, my friends. I've decided I don't need japes. I don't need comedy. I don't need jokes. I don't need bits.
This episode is going to be our most serious episode.
I am dead serious about history from this point forward, and I think we're all going to be better for it.
From what I understand, there's nothing funny about this topic.
No.
We don't find old-timiness hilarious. At all. We take it dead seriously.
I don't find there to be any humor in a man flinging a nickel to a newspaper boy and him biting it and then throwing him the times, and then maybe even dancing a jig.
To see if the nickel's real.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then the man
Now I
that
go
he,
mind my studies.
the man he throws the paper to also dances a jig, but he was also in the war, and that jig slowly turns into punches because he's been drinking a lot, and there wasn't a lot of mental health services in those days, so that's how they dealt with things.
Yeah, this is a post World War I. It was in that little juicy area where.
This is pre World War I.
His story, not your story.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Well, this is slightly embarrassing. My name is Zach Meck. I'm a history
That is
boy,
embarrassing.
and I am dressed up as JP Patches right now.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, people from outside of Seattle don't know who that is.
It's a street name in Fremont.
It's a famous clown.
It's a famous clown.
He was a clown.
He's like a Seattle bozo.
Yeah. You bozo.
And
Yeah.
that's what I am.
Yeah,
I am the bozo.
Zach is dressed like a clown, and nobody else was saying anything, so I figured I, didn't read enough text messages, and I didn't want to look like an idiot.
I thought it was weird because I told Zach that I'm done with the I'm not making any more japes anymore. I'm done with the gags. I'm done with the hijinks. And Zach said, "You leave the comedy to me, guys." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "All right, well, he's probably going to come with, a notepad, maybe some great material." And then he showed up dressed like a fucking clown.
Yeah.
And he knows how scared I am of clowns. And I can't do the show with him dressed that way. And until he takes that nose off, I can't even keep going, man.
That's how we're going to keep you serious.
Yeah.
Have Zach dressed as a clown in the corner over here, just staring you down all day.
You're going
all
to keep
day.
me dead serious.
Well, I mean, what I'm also trying to instill is a new fetish for you, Tyler. So who knows?
This doesn't awaken anything in me.
I'm rock hard.
I'm rock hard and scared. It's a new reality show.
Rock hard and scared. Give it 10 years.
Yeah.
Naked and
Spice
Afraid.
Network.
Yeah. It'll be in the same channel as Fuckboy Island or whatever.
Fuckboy Island meets Naked and Afraid. And you got yourself a TV show. Everyone's watching. And I, of course, am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy. Thank you so much for listening, as always. We got a bit of a palate cleansing episode for you today, because last one was a little serious and rough. So, we're going to do something fun today.
We're doing the Killing Fields. No, we're not doing the Killing Fields.
We're not doing Pol Pot.
No.
No, we're going to talk about Horatio Nelson Jackson's road trip across the US of A.
That's not Zach's nose. That's the car horn.
Yeah, of the time.
Of the jalopy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a time with less than 35,000 cars owned in the United States, and only affordable to the richest of rich people, and with virtually no roads connecting cities or towns together, the first trip across the United States by automobile was made.
But there was no highways.
No
How
highways?
would it be done?
Well, you'd
They
go
take the I-90.
you'd go across land instead.
Just driving across the old salt flats of Utah.
Yeah, so, they didn't go on the salt flats, but they just drove across the desert, drove across the land itself.
No, it's just driving down those old dirt roads.
The salt flats are
Where
good
they
for
could find
those
them.
rocket cars.
Yes.
Was it a rocket car?
No. No, it was not.
Was it coal powered?
No. We'll get into that.
It was a steam engine.
It was powered by gin.
Gin and beans. The two hot commodities at the time.
That's just a scientific fact. Again, no jokes today.
Yeah.
This bean powered car is going to be in the talking pictures.
Gonna be in the talkies.
At the beginning of the 20th century, the horseless carriage, a.k.a. motor car, a.k.a. the automobile,
AKA car.
yeah, was so expensive that only rich people could afford them. Most people considered them to be a fad and a rich man's toy
Yep. Like the internet.
and a nuisance.
Like the internet.
Yes.
They really took off like a
Rocket car.
regular car.
Like a regular car.
Took off like a car. An old timey car with like 16 horsepower.
Yeah. Well,
How much horsepower did this thing have?
I'm going to tell you, my friend.
Is that in this?
I'm going to tell. Oh yeah, I'm going to tell you all that.
Give us the specs, Jerry.
Okay. Well,
What kind of gas mount? Was it a hybrid? Because I drive a hybrid, guys. Just trying to do what's right for the
good for
environment.
you. Yeah.
Thanks. It's a hybrid.
Early cars looked like a carriage or a wagon. There were a combination of a lot of inventions: wagons, bicycles, and the internal combustion engine.
Wagons have horrible
Suspension.
Okay.
Welcome to the CarCast. Bunch of gearheads just talking motors.
Your motors, I don't know, splinches? Is that a thing in a car? Johnson rod? You need a Johnson.
I got a Johnson rod for you.
Jesus
So I'm
Christ.
back. Zach took off the clown costume and I put it on.
While they were talking, which was impressive because you couldn't even hear the shuffling.
It's because of those sneaky clown shoes I'm wearing.
He's got his stealth clown shoes. They don't even squeak.
Stealth clown shoes. For when you need to sneak into a party.
When you need to sneak around as a clown. When you need to get into a place and nobody hears you coming.
Jesus.
I'm a stealth clown. It's okay.
Stealth clown.
I didn't mean to sneak up on you like that.
He comes around the corner. Like he's in fucking Predator or something.
And then he honks his nose and it's like,
It's just foam.
it's a stealth nose.
No, cars, they ran on a lot of different things back in the day. They ran on steam sometimes, like the Stanley steamer ran on a steam.
Steampunk.
engine. Yeah.
It's in the name.
And actually, it took 20 minutes for the engine to heat up. To heat up all that steam before it could actually run. And then, of course, there was electric cars back in the day.
Oh, Tesla. Okay.
Yeah,
Made by Nikola Tesla.
yeah. And of course, gas-powered cars, but they wouldn't be the most acceptable form of automobile until later.
Yeah, they didn't find all that gas, that oil in the Middle East yet.
They knew about it.
They're like, I'm eyeballing this oil. I think we could run a car on this shit.
A lot of it was from Mexico at this time. In America, at least. Now, the steering wheel wasn't always on the left. Sometimes it was on the right. And in fact, most of the time it was on the right. And it wasn't always even a steering wheel. It was like a tiller. You'd pull back and forth. Their thought is that if the steering wheel was on the right, you could sort of look out for the ditches that were on the side of the road. And then later, when they realized that more cars would be on the road, they moved it to the left because you'd want to avoid oncoming traffic more so than a ditch.
They were already going down the right side of the road.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
States,
Yep.
in their horseless carriages.
Their
horsed carriages.
Yeah.
Well, you know, your head's in the right place because the early cars that you'd actually buy from the dealership, you'd get these felt horses that you hooked onto the front of the car as to not spook people out.
Yeah.
Because they were like,
They did spook people.
Well, that carriage is running on its own.
yeah, it's like no one's gonna be thinking that as long as I got fake horses on the front.
No, you guys laugh, but we'll get there.
I think that it's because we have a touch of old timiness in our brain. We already understand how these people think.
Yeah.
Because we kind of think that way to begin with.
I was a child once
Frightened by the horseless carriage.
with the big wheels
And that
inside.
train coming right at you on the moving picture.
Yeah.
I ran right out of the theater. I was 37.
They didn't have modern suspension, of course. They had leaf springs, which modern cars do have, but they also have suspension, like shock absorbers, right? They only had the leaf spring, like on a wagon.
How many leaves do you got to collect to make one of those?
Well,
four leaves.
leaf springs.
It's like in a crafting game where you like get a certain amount of leaves and you turn those into like bundles of something, and then you
I
turn
don't
that
know,
in.
Chris, 1,000, man.
1,000. That's all I was asking.
You heard it here first from the History Boiz.
Yeah. It's like Minecraft.
Yes, it's Minecraft. And they usually maxed out somewhere around 20 miles an hour, maybe 25 miles an hour.
Speed
About
demon.
It's about as fast as they went. And that's really pushing
And
the
just
car.
Pushing it to the limit.
And that's like ideal circumstances too. Like if you're on a decently paved road that's flat, you know what I mean?
And the coppers are after you.
Yeah.
Well,
But they're on horses.
Yeah. They broke down a lot. It wasn't really a perfected system. Like a lot of the technology that went into it, again, was like with bicycles.
Yeah.
So, a lot of bicycle mechanics built cars themselves.
So how often did the bicycle chain come off?
Oh, we're gonna get into that. All the time.
All right.
Wait till they hear about belts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or a drive shaft.
Ah.
But
Yeah.
the good news is you can put baseball cards in the spokes and made your car sound like a badass hot rod.
It was like it was actually not until this time that people actually wore belts around their pants. It was all chains,
Yeah, all chains. That's not true.
and they did put baseball cards in them.
They had chains around their waist, chains attached to their wallets, listening to Drowning Pool, and you know.
Well, around this time, the American League was founded. We're talking early 1900s, guys,
American League of what?
of baseball.
Oh.
No, most people didn't think very highly of automobiles. They were noisy. Not only the sound of the engine, but the whole thing made a lot of noise because there weren't belts again. It was all run on chains. Think like bicycle chains, that kind of chain.
I'm picturing Spawn riding this.
Oh God, can you imagine
It's all
trying to?
chains and bats.
Yeah,
From the twisted mind of Todd McFarlane, the automobile.
yeah,
I've heard he's a really nice guy.
it might be true.
I knew somebody worked for him, directly for him.
People
No big deal.
also didn't like the horns. Very
Yeah, I
much.
still don't.
Yeah, most people still don't like the horns.
At a place I used to live, the intersection was really fucking shitty, so people would just blast on through there not knowing any better. Also here. And you just hear honking all the time.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, shut the fuck up!
Yeah, that's how most people thought back then too, because people would just
I
drive
don't see
them.
the difference, Jerry.
Yeah. Oh, there isn't really. People would drive them kind of with reckless abandon. They would hit chickens, dogs, and cats.
Dude,
and
I've
people
hit-
weren't really
So many chickens.
people weren't really ready for that.
Well, I'm driving for DoorDash, running over chickens.
Yeah.
I avoid cats and dogs. Not an animal. But if I see a chicken, dude.
Well, some people there are reports that some people tried to aim for animals in the road, which is fucked up. Some people actually turned it into a side hustle, and they would. There's actually one report of a guy that trained a chicken to run underneath a car, like dive underneath the car, and then he would demand money from the person to pay for his chicken. Or one time,
That seems like it's a lot of risk of killing the chicken after you put so much effort
yeah,
into training it.
yeah,
It's like a Charlie Day fucking move.
it's quite the
Sorry,
scheme.
Charlie Kelly.
Yeah.
No, the actor, Charlie Day.
Yeah. In Long Island, actually, some farmers would coax their old, ragged horses into the road. William K. Vanderbilt II was the one with the car, and he would just race it too fast
I will plow right through your fucking horse.
Yeah,
I don't give a
and-
shit.
in hopes of hitting the horse, because they couldn't prove that it was an old, wretched horse, right? So they'd be like, hey, you got to pay me full price for this horse you
Yeah, if
hit.
you splatter it.
Yeah, so it's sort of a side hustle.
I've been there.
Until Vanderbilt jumps out of the car and says, no, I'm a rich person, so I have a rich person education, and I can tell those organs are necrotic. I'm not giving you a dime. And then he gets back into his motor car.
Just threw a dead horse out into the street as I'm walking by.
Yeah.
I've fallen for this once.
He's like, I got hundreds of dead horses. You want to trade? I'll give you fucking another dead horse to replace the dead horse that you.
I'll give you
that I
2
had.
dead horses.
It's enough horse meat to feed your entire family.
You poor
See?
fuck.
I'm nice. I'm a philanthropist.
Yeah. He actually caused a lot of trouble with this car. One day I'd kind of like to do the Vanderbilt family.
I'm just glad he never built a suit of armor that he could control around and fly. you know?
Yeah, or shot himself into space.
Oh, if he made like a rocket belt and called it the Vanderbilt,
Nice.
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
God damn it.
That would be cool.
He's like,
But
I'm
he didn't.
gonna go
He was
punch.
too busy hitting horses with his car.
Yeah.
I know, he
and
could have
people.
been flying around punching the Kaiser right in his fucking noggin.
I'll give him the all what for?
Yeah.
That's how everyone talked back then.
Yeah.
No, that's not a joke.
Okay,
Yeah.
I do have a question though. Like,
Yes.
if the cars like we already know that the cars are not shoddily built, but like they
lack technology.
They're noisy. They
They
lack
say they
technology.
lactate.
They lactate. Wouldn't the fucking car crumple in if it hit fucking horse?
Or made of harder metals.
Yeah.
They were made of wrought iron, like a safe. It was like a safe, so if you hit anything, you'd bounce around inside and turn into soup. Open the door, it just pours right out.
It would fuck the car up.
You want your horse back?
Yeah. But it wasn't like, it wasn't like a modern day smart car, crumpling.
Oh, doesn't have Bluetooth.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd imagine seatbelts are not even an optional feature.
No, not at all. A lot of safety features and things you wouldn't really even think of. We'll kind of get to that later. But
all the mirrors.
Yeah. Headlights is another thing.
Well, also they didn't want mirrors back then because they believed if you looked into a mirror, you would lose your soul.
A monster would come out.
You get a servant to hang out on the front of your car with a lantern.
You're not far off.
I told you.
Let me get there. Let me get there. Not far off. Yeah, they created way too much dust, more so than wagons or horse or even a team of oxen, and it really pissed people off. At the time, them thinking hey, we gotta figure out paving these roads because there's too much dust, and because they have wider tires and all this stuff, and they're much more than a wagon because they go faster, right? And they're we can't justify paving these roads with so little cars on the street, so they're fuck that, we're not doing that. That's a giant waste of money. They just couldn't justify paving the roads like they should be for cars.
Yeah, that's socialism.
Yeah. Cars, of course, also spooked livestock and horses. Mm-hmm. Each affected side blamed each other for this, so if it spooked a horse and the horse ran away, the guy with the horse would be like, fuck you, man, it's making too much noise. And the guy in the car would be like, fuck you for not embracing the automobile.
Yeah.
And they'd
way to lift the cast, motherfucker.
Dude, and I'm not kidding. They would have clubs where they'd sit around and make fun of people that aren't embracing the new technology of the automobile. And call people, backwards idiots for not having...
So humanity's never changed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, your horse saw my horse's carriage, got mind-boggled because he was like, I should be attached to the front of that. Am I there and also here? And it broke his mind and he ran away.
It was like the end of Evangelion.
Yeah.
And of course, cars would also hit humans. Who sort of for a little while kind of refused to live in a reality with cars. They'd kind of walk across the street with reckless abandon.
So nothing has changed.
Yeah. Yep. There was the first death by automobile was a guy stepping off of a streetcar, like a cable car. Mm-hmm. A car zoomed by and ran him over, and he died.
Thank God it was the last.
Nip that problem in the bud.
Yeah. So most people didn't. I'm gonna say this multiple times, but most people didn't like cars, even though they were kind of a novelty and people were a little fascinated by them.
It's the worst Pixar movie.
In fact, it was actually perfectly legal in some places of the country for a car after a wreck to leave the scene, as long as they reported it to the police the next day.
I mean, yeah. We got 24 hours. Let's go back to that.
That's some Launchpad McQuack bullshit right there. It's like, all's well that ends well. Yeah. I'm not dead.
Yeah.
Sorry
I'll
about
tell
your
the cops tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, some people actively hated cars. They would throw rocks at them. Mm-hmm. Some people threw shit at cars.
Like feces shit.
Yep.
Cool.
Some even shot guns at cars, or threatened to shoot guns at cars. Some put broken glass in the street for cars to run over and pop their wheels.
I've done that.
Or pop their tires.
I like gun and broken glass versus car, and at the time they were like Robot Wars.
Yeah. In Berlin, actually, they did this all over. They tie ropes or steel cables across the street to prevent cars from coming down the street. They'd be like, okay, no cars in the city limits or within the town, So they tie these things. But in Berlin in 1913, there was one case where a cable was tied across the road and decapitated a couple driving down the street.
Yes!
I was reading about a water slide that did that.
Yeah.
And, I guess recently. Mm. And they had, multiple people were injured by this, netting, and then this one... This is actually not a funny story. A kid got his head cut off.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That kid should have been driving an old-timey motor car on the water slide.
Honk, honk. Jesus Christ, that's fucked up. And actually, there was an anti-Semitic bend to automobile
You don't
owners
say.
in Germany.
You don't
In
say.
Germany.
I was gonna say when you brought up Berlin, I was like, well, that's the worst thing to come out of Berlin.
Well,
Continue.
Well, they would make jokes, about how only reckless Jews drove cars, and the Jews caused all the problems in their menacing vehicles.
From what I hear, Jerry, Hitler invented anti-Semitism.
Yeah,
So this
right.
didn't exist for centuries.
It's existed as long as they've existed.
If there's any propaganda posters of that era, of a caricature of a Jewish man driving an automobile, I would like to see it for my own
has to
amusement.
exist.
They do exist.
That
They
has
do.
to
It's
exist.
sad that they exist. It's horrible that it existed.
Oh, it's pretty gross.
It's even worse that people took them seriously. But if I was the top race car driver in Israel, I'd have that
Israel's
post.
not a country
Yeah,
at
it
this
is
point.
now.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, I don't recognize
Okay,
it
fine.
as a country.
If I was the top race car driver in fucking Beverly Hills or Manhattan, I would have that poster on my wall. I'm just
If
saying.
you were a Jewish driver.
If I was a Jewish driver,
Yes. To give you motivation.
yeah,
sort of to
I'd be
fight
like, I'm
against
flipping
the-
it. I'm
yeah.
flipping it.
Yeah. Okay.
Your regular
Would
Missy
you-
Elliott.
So for the first time ever, speed limits were imposed. Any guesses as to how fast the speed limit was?
15.
55.
10. Oh, I can't drive.
You
50.
can't drive 55.
I can't
It's not
do
safe.
it. It's not safe.
I'm going to say 5.
Right on the money there, Zach. Woo! 5 miles per hour was the speed limit in most places.
That's way too slow.
Yeah, fuck that. It's not a school zone.
Because I'd be driving 45 on the freeway. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Because
yeah.
I like to be safe. I can't drive 55, right?
Yeah, it's way too fast.
Way
Yeah.
too fast. It's unsafe. But come on, on the streets, on the regular
Yeah.
suburban streets, I drive 45.
It's a minute.
I
It's a
always
menace.
drive 45.
Exactly 45.
Yeah.
Now, some places, this is kind of going back to what you said, some places even wanted a sober adult to walk in front of the car as it came down the street with a red flag, waving it to everybody, showing that a car was coming.
Addendum.
I said we get back to that.
I say we get back to that and modify it so it's a drunken adult.
Okay. Yeah.
Car.
Car coming out of the street, everybody.
They breathalyze you before you do it. Like,
Yeah, they're like, you gotta have 4 more beers before we give you the flag, man. You're stone cold sober, buddy.
Yeah.
like
Come on, guys.
0.07.
It's like a mini parade every fucking day.
Some places banned cars altogether. A lot of
we-
people are against cars.
If we had enough public transportation, I would think that would be fine in the city.
Well, the
Same.
thing is the city wasn't really a problem. There were streets that were connecting in the city, but if you wanted to go from New York to Miami, there wasn't any road that went in between, or even New York to Poughkeepsie.
Mm-hmm.
There was no road that connected in between.
Ah, the old sanatorium.
Yeah, so there were roads that were for specific purposes, and they didn't want cars driving down those roads because there's farmers down those roads, and they're just trying to make a living.
They didn't build
They didn't
freeways
need a-
for a long time.
No,
'Cause I
or
saw that-
highways.
I saw
Or
that in
highways.
the historical piece, Roger Rabbit.
Yes.
Who framed Roger Rabbit? Remember that?
Yeah.
They were building freeways in that.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to build one through Toontown.
Yeah.
or
They wanted to
something.
destroy Toontown.
Yeah,
with
fuck
the freeway.
Toontown. Bunch of fucking... what are they contributing to society?
Laughs and japes.
We're silly with the term japes today.
I think it's the old
We're
timeliness
lousy
of the
with japes.
subject.
Yeah.
That is.
Now, the first time anyone attempted to drive across the country in an automobile was a mechanic named J.D. Davis and his wife, a journalist named Louise Hitchcock Davis. And she was going to write about it for her column. They were going to try to go across the country.
Was this in a woman's paper?
No, she wrote for a paper.
Oh.
Now this is an odd paper.
This is
No.
like a coastal paper.
It was a big paper back in the day.
Oh, large syndicated publication, like some kind of woman's journal.
Jesus Christ.
I'm going through the zeitgeist of the time, man.
I know what you're doing. It's beautiful.
Jesus. No, they left New York to go to San Francisco. The year was 99.
Ooh, the same year that Red Dead Redemption 2 takes place.
Yes, there you go.
The same.
It didn't go well.
Yeah, I played that game. It's pretty old-timey.
There was a one-armed bicyclist that 10 days after they took off, passed them by Syracuse.
Oh.
So they were not far when this one-armed bicyclist passed them.
This was Lance Armstrong's ancestor.
Yeah, right.
That's why they called him
He's
Armstrong.
doping.
Yeah, he had one arm that was very, very strong.
It'd have to be. It's a lot of balancing on a bike.
But still had both testicles.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of testicles.
Like 6.
What he lacked in arms, he made up in testicles.
It's like George Washington.
Motherfucker had 30 goddamn dicks.
That's right.
3 months after they left New York, they abandoned their trip somewhere around Cleveland or Toledo. That's
not
how
that
far they made it in 3 months from New York to
They're like
Cleveland.
automobiles. They were deep in the Rust Belt, so they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Just hang out there, and eventually they'll build a better car.
Yeah. There
They
you
can
go.
just get in it and finish their journey.
But just
Years
don't
later.
stay to them into to modern times, because it's not doing so good.
It's a nightmare. The second time anyone ever attempted to drive across the continent was the Scottish-born American inventor Alexander Winton.
Graham Bell.
Everyone had to have 4 names,
Yeah.
but
He's like, well, what it was he was just tired of. He's like, dude, I'm tired of driving all the way across country to talk to somebody on the telephone or talk to somebody.
yeah.
So he invented the telephone.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about Alexander Graham Bell in the Garfield episode, if you remember correctly.
I remember that we did a Garfield episode.
He invented telephone technology to amplify sounds in your ear because his wife was deaf. Anyway, I would love to do an episode on him.
Tried to make a phone call to the bullet in Garfield's belly, and it was a cluck call, and it was denied.
Well, turns out some of the same technology goes into metal detecting. Anyway, if you're interested, go back and listen to Garfield.
Sounds like I should.
I will actually explain it. Yeah. You two need to do that.
I just accurately described a thing that happened in that episode. He built the machine so he could fucking try to find the bullet.
Yes.
I took some creative liberties with how I expressed that invention, but I remember that part happening, and I don't understand why you're getting so mad at us, Jerry.
It's because I'm being an idiot. He just puts us together.
I just put you
He
together.
honestly can't even tell the difference between the two of us.
You look the same to me.
We all look
And
like
one's
his
wearing a
mother.
clown suit.
Yeah. Well, you both have
Well, I've
bright
been-
red afros.
I have been dressed as a clown this whole time.
Yeah.
Just
This
part of the reason.
The whole time I've known Chris.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway.
That's why I was so upset with Zach. I was like, dude, that's my thing.
now,
I'm the clown guy in the group.
now Alexander Winton started as a bicycle engineer and designer. He founded the Winton Motor Carriage Company in 1897, and he started sort of combining things to make motor carriage, right? All of his motor carriages were totally handmade to custom specifications. It took a long time to make. You don't order these things at dealerships. You order them from the company, they build it for you, and then they ship it to you with 0 miles on them. So, like, it comes off the train, and it has 0 miles on it. And it costs you a fortune. It costs you $3,000 back in the day.
Oh my god.
Which is $32,000 in today's money.
That's more expensive than my brand new RAV4.
Yeah.
Hybrid, by the way.
Oh, good for
But,
you.
but it had 14 miles on it, so I feel like I was ripped off.
Yeah. Actually, I should have said $1,000 is $32,000 today. You would sell them for about $1,000 and upwards of $1,000. Totally inaccessible to middle class and poorer people.
But at least they had that AM radio in there.
Not even that.
At least you could have room for a Victrola that you'd fit in it. And
Not
then,
even that.
No.
He like people even today, he built race cars too to show everyone that his Winton motor carriages were the best.
Did they go blistering like 25 miles an hour?
They went like 30 miles an hour.
Whoa!
Which was so fast.
Easy speed racer.
There was a writer, and there are, car enthusiasts always cite this, and I think it's like it's someone really important, and I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but he said the only modern feeling that we have is speed. Like, no one had ever felt what it's like to go 20 miles an hour like that, 25 miles an hour like that.
How fast can horses go?
Not that fast. And especially for prolonged periods of time.
That makes sense.
Sure.
So speed is the only modern human feeling that we really have access to.
Have you ever gone 55?
I can't.
Yes.
I'm incapable.
It's too fast.
I can't go 55.
That's what Sammy Hagar said.
I can't drive.
He's a safe man.
55. Yeah. Anyway.
He's been drinking. Let's be real.
Yeah.
He's like, if I go 55, I'm going to be flying all over the road.
Yeah. I'm gonna kill another family.
Yeah. And what if they were on their way to Cabo Wabo?
Yeah. Cabo Wabo comes from a Spanish phrase that means I'm a murderer and I'm sorry.
It's because I've been drinking and I'm driving over 55.
Yeah, Miles
Anyway.
Broderick also invested in that.
Dear Lord.
Oh my god.
And Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah. And maybe this might be an apocryphal story, but Alexander Winton, at the height of the Winton motor carriage time, he started thinking really highly of himself and his company, and there was this young man that applied to come work for him, and he was really ambitious. He had a lot of ideas about how to improve the motor carriage, and Alexander Winton didn't even grant him an interview and dismissed him. And that man was
Henry Ford.
Henry Ford.
Nixon.
Yeah.
He's like, there's a guy outside. He wants an interview. He's got a lot of great ideas about cars and a lot of weird ideas about the Jews. And he was like...
A lot of perfectly normal ideas
Yeah.
based on the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't have time to hear more of the same today. And,
God.
Jesus Christ.
And they were anti-Semitic.
yeah, Henry
They were
Ford was
incredibly-
a famous anti-Semite.
Yes, he was. Nazi sympathizer as well. Important to know. Now, Ford would never forget this jilt, right? And he started building his own cars, of course. And he actually beat Alexander Winton in a race, which was kind of
embarrassing.
prophetic in a lot of ways. Because no one drives Wintons anymore, right?
Oh,
Right.
speak for yourself.
I don't know why I thought that was like you're out there like
I just imagine you on the freeway going like 19
with
miles
goggles
per hour.
on, going 20 miles an hour.
Mr. Burns. I'm sure the manual will say which is the
Yeah,
what is
just
it?
the what is it?
The
The,
velocitator and
the
the decelerate.
decellulatrix. People on the road are
With like the button up, like
Yeah.
"You man!" I'm like, what was that?
yeah.
Happy motoring. Brr, brr.
Happy motoring.
Yeah.
I've driven with Tyler, and yes, this is all fucking true.
Yeah.
I do
He's
drive.
like, I hope you brought your own goggles because bugs will get in your eyes.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite is whenever we're in the carpool lane and everyone's just whizzing right by us. It's so great.
Yeah. Now,
I drive the speed limit.
19 miles an hour.
yeah. Now, as a publicity stunt, Winton attempted to drive one of his larger touring cars. Now, you know when you see, like, the smaller, old-timey cars, and then you see those bigger, like, 4-seat, maybe, like, they have, like, 2 or 3 benches. And
like
they're
a third of a
big
church.
cars.
Like Beverly Hillbillies, right?
Yeah. Those cars are generally called touring cars. And then they can go smaller too, but generally if you have more than like one bench seat in a car, it's a touring car. So he was going to drive one of his touring cars across the country. And it was going to be a publicity stunt, and he was going to start in the West, start in San Francisco, because that was the hard part. And he was going to get the hard part over first before he got to the East, and there was a little bit more roads to work with.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Well,
Plus
he
you got
got
those mountains.
yeah. Well, he got to the Nevada desert, and his car was hopelessly stuck in a sand dune. They had to be abandoned, and he told everyone, he goes, even a Winton can't perform miracles.
Yeah, and that's how we met Queens of the Stone Age.
Hanging out in the desert just...
Jamming.
I thought you were going to say, even a Winton can't be tamed. I got out, and it just drove away into the desert.
It broke down constantly, and it just got stuck real bad. And that was that for his effort. So Dr. Horatio Nelson Jackson was a physician from Vermont who had married a wealthy heiress named Bertha Richardson Wells.
That's a name.
All of them. Well, I guess they just go with their middle name every time.
Yeah.
They're like all serial killers.
I'm just expecting, like, J.G.S. Luther Pennypacker.
Yeah, she came from a super rich family. They were so rich, in fact, that Jackson actually quit his medical practice, and they were still extremely well off. Now, after looking into some silver mine investments in Mexico...
Yeah. I was thinking that. I was like, were they in Mexico?
They were.
Because there's a lot of silver in Mexico.
And gold mine investments in...
California.
Alaska.
Yeah, that's
Hey!
Yeah.
Yeah,
all
that makes
tied
more
together.
sense. And this is where, Doctor Strange comes and he meets Spider-Man.
Yeah. They made their way to San Francisco because Jackson had a mild case of tuberculosis.
Oh, TB?
Yeah.
The consumption.
The Red Death.
I love calling it consumption. I think I've done that every time we brought up TB.
Yeah, he had a touch of the consumption.
I gotta touch the consumption.
Yeah. I guess he recovered from it fairly quickly.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bacterial.
Yeah.
It's like the plague.
Yeah.
Anyway, while they were in... not like the plague, but...
I mean, it's bacterial.
Yes, but anyway. They had both been taking driving lessons in San Francisco in these newfangled automobiles.
Oh.
And they were both fascinated and totally taken by the new fad, the automobile. And on the fateful day of May 18th, 1903, Horatio Nelson Jackson was a guest at the University Club in San Francisco. And everybody, it was a men's club. And everybody was standing around smoking and drinking, and they were talking politics and stuff, but the conversation turned to the newfangled automobile.
Oh, I thought you were going to say to the young boys that they just...
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's a eyes wide shut situation.
Different gentleman's club than the kind that I've been to.
Frequented.
I would say frequent. I mean, there's somewhere between like not going at all and frequenting. I'm somewhere in the middle.
You've gone a couple of times.
I've been.
And that gentleman's club was ran by the great-great-grandfather of Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, everyone except for Jackson agreed that the horse was the gold standard of human mobility.
Getting around.
Yeah. Our economy's on the horse standard.
Yeah, yeah. Like, the train was a thing, but the thing is about the train is, I mean, you're at the mercy of the tracks and at the train schedule and where there's train stops and where there's not train stops.
Well, it's like in Red Dead Redemption, where you're like, okay, I need to go to this point. I was like, well, I happen to know that it's not a lot of hills, so I don't need to take roads. I can just beeline straight there. But then there's some places where the roads are kind of, it's very hilly, and taking the roads is the best way to go.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and that's how cars kind of were. Now, one of the men, because the argument got so heated, one of the men actually bet Jackson $50.
Ooh.
Big money.
Yeah, which was a lot of money back then.
This reminds me of when Mr. Burns bet that other, power plant guy about the baseball team.
Yeah.
And they're like, he's like, how about $1 million? He's like, oh, not enough for you. And he goes, not $1 million. I thought that was... He's like, oh, I thought we were going to go back and forth. But yeah, $1 million is fine. Yeah.
Bet him $50 that he couldn't drive an automobile across the country in 90 days.
$50.
$50.
And what year is this at this point?
1903.
This is like the 1903 version of like Jeff Bezos.
Oh, Richard Branson.
Kenneth
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, I mixed the two guys.
Kenneth Branagh shot himself into space.
Yeah.
Because he he directs Shakespearean movies, and then he did Thor. And
he wanted to do Hamlet in space, the first person to do Hamlet in space.
But yeah, no, it's the same kind of like billionaire dick measuring contest that we have now, just
exactly
way more literally down to earth.
Yeah,
I promise you, Jeff Bezos would be doing this exact thing.
Yeah, if he was old timey.
If this time,
despite not knowing anything about automobiles or having any experience driving other than his little lessons, Jackson took that bet. He said, I'll do it. Hell yeah, I'll do it.
How much gin was involved?
Oh, they were drinking. It's one of those, like, drunken...
Whiskey, too, probably? I'm in a gentleman...
It's a whiskey. There's whiskey, there's cigars.
Scotch.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, scotch. And he was like, I'll do it. I'll prove you all wrong. You
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah. Fuck that shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon. Anyway. So, he immediately set to work proving these other rich guys wrong. To help with this daunting endeavor, Jackson hired a local bicycle mechanic, Sewell K. Crocker.
Ooh.
Originally, he was from Tacoma, Washington.
Oh.
Hey, T-boy.
He's like, I live in this
Grit
field.
City.
Yeah.
He loved
Chain restaurants.
He loved chain restaurants and having balls on his truck.
Yeah, like everyone in Tacoma. Am I right,
That's all
Zach?
I see when I go to
Nah, that's more
Every
Lakewood.
house looks exactly the same, and everything else is fucking strip malls and fucking chain restaurants.
But yeah, Jackson needed Crocker, a guy that knew what he was doing mechanically, to go with him in case anything went wrong. And boy, well, am I gonna tell you, shit's gonna go wrong in these early cars.
Are there penguins in this one?
No,
Like Shackleton?
not like Shackleton. No,
My wife liked that one because she likes penguins, but they ate penguins.
They ate
I
'em.
think, but I think she's like, I mean, I would eat penguins if I was starving. So
absolutely, yeah. It's a bird. It's like a big chicken.
yeah, I got a annual pass to the zoo. I can eat penguin whenever I want.
I don't think that's part of the deal, but
If you want to commit some crimes. Crocker actually, like, Jackson asked Crocker, like, all right, now what car should we take across this great nation?
he's like, doesn't exist yet.
This reminds me of the movie Green Hornet with Seth Rogen, where he's like, "Oh, you're the mechanic. Let's go on an adventure."
Yeah,
and he's like a rich asshole.
Yep,
you ever see that?
That's the same thing.
It's not
exactly
a great
the same
movie.
thing.
It feels like it actually had it. It has the pieces where it could work, but it doesn't.
Green Hornet, of course, was a radio show back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's exactly what it was. But Crocker actually recommended that they take one of those big Winton touring cars. The thing was, though, is, again, those things are made custom, and they take months and whatnot, and the only Winton they could find was a...
Oh, the shitty one?
Well, they found a wealthy guy that owned one, and he was willing to part with it. It already had 1,000 miles on it, which, that's like 100,000 miles on a modern car.
It's like dog years, man.
Yeah.
Right.
And it had kind of a subpar back end, like the back end had taken a little bit of abuse.
Dumps like a truck.
But it was it was the only one that they could find. So they bought it from him for $3,000.
Ooh.
Damn.
Jeez.
Which was top dollar. And for a used car, come on now.
Did they have to do some work on it before they took it on the road?
No.
Oh, man.
No.
I wanted the montage. Them being like, it's a start, and then it's like, beam, boom, bam, boom, bam, boom, bam,
Over.
Yeah.
Are you?
And Winston learned fucking kung fu.
Yeah, and there's like, there's the part with the welding mask, and they put it down the sparks. Yeah.
No, this car, it was 20 horsepower, 2-cylinder, 2-speed.
2 cylinders?
2 cylinders.
In case one of the
Like, what
cylinders
about-
goes.
I know you guys like the cylinder car. What about 2 cylinders?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, oh my god, I'm gonna cut my pants.
I'm gonna cut.
It was 2-cylinder, it had 2 speeds, high and low.
Yeah.
Right? It was also a chain drive car, meaning that instead of a drive shaft to control your back end, it was like a big chain, like a bicycle, that went in between the front end and the back end. So there's a big, like a bicycle chain, almost
How'd that
like
go
a
for
bicycle chain. You'll see.
Okay. Tell me skip to the end.
Yeah, it all was fine.
Yeah.
No, chain drive car, no windshield, no top, and it was 2 seats. So this is a jalopy.
They wear goggles?
Yeah, they wore goggles. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Again, kicked up a lot of dust, these things.
Imagine goblins driving this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a sidecar for some reason.
They all have aviator caps. You know?
Yeah.
They're very steampunk goblins.
Yeah. It maxed out. Its speed actually maxed out around 30 miles an hour in ideal circumstances. So this is kind of top of the
Listen
line.
to that kitten purr. What? Listen to that kitten purr. What? Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a hybrid. It doesn't go that fast.
It had a ratcheted start crank. And basically what that would do, because it was a big problem, because, you know, those old cars, you got to start them with that crank in the front. If it gave out unexpectedly, if it, pop, while you were doing that, it could break your arm. And cars did do that all the time. I know several people that have broken their arm trying to start one of these old-timey cars. Personally, I know them,
you're
yes.
from Idaho.
Yeah. Personally, I know
talking
them.
shit about Tacoma. This boy.
I know, right?
I'm not from Idaho.
But it was ratcheted, so it would catch right before it'd break your arm.
Cool.
So there were
Before it would tear your arm out of its socket. Throw it across the street.
Yeah, there was a couple of safety measures in there. It actually the steering wheel actually tilted up, so you could sit in it easier, and then you could put the steering wheel back.
No
down.
seatbelts.
No seatbelts. It was one bench.
Anti-lock brakes.
No differential.
Power steering, though.
No power steering. Do you know what a differential is?
I've heard the term in so many car commercials.
When you're turning a corner in modern cars, having a differential will make certain wheels turn slower or faster based on which direction you're turning. This didn't have that. It's a wagon with an engine on it.
Cool.
Yeah,
You
you go
know
at
what
high
I mean?
speed, it doesn't do that. The wheels are not pointed the same way so much.
Yeah. When you turn corners and stuff, they kind of like, one turns, the inner one turns sharper and the other one turns wider. So it's better. It's a smoother turning experience.
Car's
didn't have
bullshit,
that.
man.
So the flux capacitor.
It doesn't
No.
have an AM, FM, doesn't have Corinthian leather, doesn't have power windows.
No
This car's-
Bluetooth.
Yeah,
No
it's
windshield, no top.
GPS?
nothing like
That's
that.
the way I like most of my ladies, though.
And actually,
No top.
Uh,
That's good.
Yeah.
On
the
then
thing-
you see the breasts.
Their breasts, yeah.
yeah,
We're adults.
Jesus. This is also a time on the GPS thing. This is also a time where maps themselves, the ones that did exist, were incredibly unreliable. Like they would say, like, "Oh yeah, go down this road, 0.3 miles, and turn right at the White Barn."
Those just sound like remember MapQuest where you'd print it out. And be
Even
like,
worse.
I gotta fucking.
Because if the farmer painted his barn, then all of a sudden, you don't know where the hell.
And then
you're
it'll
turning.
be like, "There's dragons here," and you get there, and there's not even dragons.
Or there's no, or turn right at the big rock. It's like big rock. Like what is a big rock?
You see a big rock, and you're like,
Is that the big
kind
rock?
of big. Is
Yeah.
that the rock? And you turn, but no, there's a way bigger rock, and you didn't know because you
Yeah.
didn't see it yet.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's no mile markers, man.
No.
There's a small boat that somebody left behind.
Yeah.
Yep. There's no.
On the far left, you got to look under the trees. Leafage may have. So pull over and look for a boat at this part.
Yeah.
And if you see the boat, then you took the right turn.
And
And
not to
again-
mention all the parts in the maps that were just sea monsters.
Yeah.
And again, roads didn't connect towns yet. You know what I mean? There was no highways.
I do.
Roads did not connect town. So Jackson, he was like, well, this car, because we're going over this massive undertaking, this car needs a name. So he named it after his home and their end destination, the Vermont.
JerryNash.buttlicker@historyboiz.com.
Gmail.com.
We will name it
At hotmail.com.
the Titanic.
Yeah. Over the next 4 days, 4 days of preparation, they outfitted the car with their supplies. This included 2 Macintoshes. You know what Macintoshes are?
Computers.
They're apples.
No. Rubber rainproof clothing. 2 Macintoshes, a tarp, sleeping bags, cooking equipment, blankets, a compass, canteens, an axe, a shovel, a telescope, a couple of repair tools, a block and tackle. Do you know what a block and tackle
I feel
is?
like
For
you've
fishing.
literally... By the way, I feel like you've literally said in this podcast before, to me and Tyler, block and tackle, do you know what a block and tackle is? And we go, no. And we're doing it here again.
Okay.
I know what a block and tackle is. It's for fishing. Is
No,
you
it's
tackles for fishing.
No.
A block is for standing on.
Tackle
when
is
you're
just-
The black is for throwing into the water. Hoping you hit a fish.
fishing. Spook at the fish, and then you can
Hoping you hit a fish on the head with it.
Yeah.
No, you see them on boats a lot. They're like sort of these oblong shapes, and ropes kind of go through them. It's like a pulley system.
Oh,
Right.
this thing.
There's like a block, like an oblong block, and then ropes fit in between, like the
I know what you're
block.
talking about.
And then
I do.
and then it makes pulling things easier.
Oh, like in a dwarven village.
Or on a
Yes.
ship, or on something like this. You'll find a lot of block and tackles on
Well, dwarves
ships.
are the seamen of the land.
Yeah. They're the seamen of the treetops, really.
No, that's
They have those
that's
elves.
elves.
Stout bodies.
Dwarves go in the ground.
Elves go above the ground.
Yeah.
Men, directly on the ground.
On the ground.
Lord of the
Get
Rings.
it together. Yeah.
Come on.
Welcome to the Rings cast, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Belrogs. Never had wings.
They also had cans for extra gasoline and oil, and a Kodak camera,
Oh.
a rifle, a shotgun,
Oh.
2 pistols, and one spare tire.
It sounds like
One.
One.
it sounds to me like these guys were sponsored by Walmart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill
So
Cosby.
It's your one-stop shop, Zach. On May 23rd, 1903, Horatio waved goodbye to his wife Bertha, who was going to take the train back to Vermont.
She's like,
and-
fuck this shit.
Yeah, and he was going to set out across the country with Sewell Crocker.
Mhm.
And he would write her letters the whole way. And this is kind of how we have the account that I'm about to tell you, is through the letters that he wrote her. And they're actually really flowery love letters. And you can tell that he loves her very much. And it's really sweet hearing a lot of his letters. I'm actually thinking about reading some of his letters, or Patreon, as well.
That'd be a good one.
It's written in a very old-timey way. It's adorable, as it is funny. Anyway, they waved goodbye to Bertha. She would actually help finance the trip with her family's money. She would wire him cash and stuff, because this would not be cheap, this trip. What they did first is they actually took a ferry over to Oakland, and once they got in Oakland, they started putting away down the street, or down the road.
Eastward.
Actually, they headed north first.
Auga.
Well,
To Seattle, Washington.
well, they didn't want to repeat the same mistakes that Alexander Winton made by going across the Nevada desert.
So you can make all new mistakes.
Yeah, so he was going to go up to Oregon first and bypass the desert. It would add 1,000 miles to the trip, but they were going to go up there first, just so they couldn't get stuck.
Where are the mountains the worst?
In
Up
a
in the
couple
Colorado
of
Rockies.
there's a couple of places around Wyoming. It's really bad. We'll get into that. But as they took off, 12 miles into their drive, a tire blew.
Been there, brother.
Good thing they had that spare.
They had one spare. They threw
They're
it
already
on.
fucking... And is it the little donut? You know? And
No,
you're
it's
driving
a-
down the freeway on your way home, and you're just like, fuck. And they're like, you're not supposed to drive more than 45 miles per hour, but, like, the speed limit on the fucking 520 bridge is 50, and you're fucking slow, and people are just going, honk, 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 and they're going 70, because nobody gives a shit.
Joke's on them, you only go 55, so you're like, hey, I'm only going 5 miles slower than normal, so fucking eat a dick.
No. Only these guys are driving overland, and the sharp rocks are puncturing their tires. So they threw on the spare. They decided that they were going to drive through the night. And they instantly realized that the headlights were completely useless at driving during the night. So they actually, when they got to Sacramento, they actually got a spotlight for night driving.
Why are they useless?
They're way too dim.
I was about to say,
So
why
why
don't they
have
turn
them
on
at all?
some high beams?
You don't need them during the day.
Well,
For showing off.
I don't think anyone really drove during the night You know what I mean? Until this point, you know what I mean? Like
those gas lanterns.
Yeah, these things you gotta light.
All the shops close at 3 p.m. right before supper time, Chris. Come on.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right.
And in Sacramento, they actually drew a crowd, you know, because people wanted to see the automobile. There was a couple of bicyclists and like a bank manager and a couple other like well-to-do people that, you know, whenever somebody says, hey, which way to wherever, everyone like gathers around and tells you like the best way to get to, you know, this is nothing new. So they all like pulled out their maps and they're like, no, this is the best way. This is the way you want to go. You know, so they're all like pouring over it. Now, honestly, they needed all the help they could get because nothing is reliable, and these guys have almost no experience. Not like Alexander Winton, at least.
Jerry, is this story, like, genuinely wholesome?
A little bit.
I'm just realizing, like...
No one dies.
Yeah, it's like an old-timey
the Dahmer
American
part.
wholesome story.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was one shopkeep when they pulled it in Northern California. When they pulled in, the guy goes, you know, if I ever strike it rich, I'm going to buy me one of these things. That way I can spend my money fast. And he goes, I'm going to knock over my neighbor's fences with this thing.
That's the most American thing I've ever heard.
And he goes, and then that way my kids won't have any money to fight over when I'm dead.
That's the American dream, is to spend your money frivolously, piss off your neighbors, and give none of it to your kids.
Yes, exactly. This unnamed shopkeeper is like my favorite
He's
person
the hero
of this
of this story.
He's like, I want to spend my money fast, leave nothing to it, you know, for my kids,
Where in
and
the
knock
country
down
was this?
fences. This is in Northern California, like right past Sacramento.
And that man was his great-great-great-grandson turned out to be my father, Ron Wheaton.
Now, the mechanical failures began to mount for them. They popped another tire, and they had to stop and wire San Francisco for more tires.
Yeah, because I was like, well, they're done.
But how do they get the tires out there? Because if they're the only car out there, then you can't get another car out there with more
by
tires.
stagecoach.
Well,
Oh.
people
Think about it.
Defeating the purpose of the whole fucking...
taken wagons. I mean, that's what the fucking Oregon Trail was.
Yeah,
People
and-
have.
Yeah, so think about it, like, it's not defeating the purpose. I mean, they're still actually going in a motor car across the United States.
Yeah.
But they would wait. They would have to wait for, like, the train to come and give them parts. This is, like, something that would happen all the time. Wait for a stagecoach. Cost them days. You know.
And they only had
whole
90
weeks.
days to do this.
Yes, that would, according to the bet.
That was
yes.
the bet, right.
Throughout this episode, me and Chris are going to be like, when are we going to get to Duluth, Minnesota? And Jerry's going to be like, we're going to get there when we get there, okay, guys? Don't make me turn the
we
story
there
around.
yet?
Yeah, that's what. Are we there yet? Are we there? That's us.
This is the Great American Road Trip, right?
And we actually are recording this in a car traveling across country.
Well, and I do know that a lot of people do listen to us while they're going on road trips. And this is the perfect episode to listen to while you're going on a road trip.
Yeah, you fucking idiots listen to other episodes.
Don't call our listeners idiots, Chris.
Not all of them. Just the ones who have gone on road trips.
Jesus.
I know
Just
that
disregard everything Chris is saying.
He doesn't
specifically
mean
our Discord friends have said they were going on road trips, and I said that to be abrasive.
Yeah.
But also, like, a bit of a shout-out, so...
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
You know who you are,
Yeah.
and we love you.
Yes, of course we do. But they couldn't, like they waited a week one time, you know, for parts, and they just had to go. And like without tires, they wrapped the wheels in rope and just went on like that.
Cool.
And
Because they don't want to fuck up them axles.
Dude, it's like that episode of MacGyver. What they should have done is just taken the tires off the car completely, put it on the train tracks, and just drove down the train tracks all the way to fucking... Did they do it?
Well, they stuck.
Jesus Christ.
They stuck to the train routes.
Everything
they could
Tyler
at
is
least-
saying, you're like,
So
no,
they
they
could,
did that.
So they could at least know where they were going. They at
Okay.
least stuck to the train routes.
Tyler
right?
tried to do that one time, driving on train tracks.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it went horribly, didn't it?
Maybe, maybe not.
They bought some inner tubes as
Oh,
well.
going down the river.
Going
Well,
tubing.
inner tubes as tires, if you can think of that. Inner tubes as
Well, I
tires.
feel like
And going across just the land,
it's like
the
the
sharp,
Michelin Man.
Yeah, the sharp rocks would just puncture your tire.
Yeah.
So every once in a while they'd have to stop, patch it until they could get
Did
air
they-
into it.
So, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong. There was a certain point where all tires were white, and they ended up adding like carbon or something to them to get them more, I don't know, less fragile, I guess.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's why the Michelin Man is white,
Yes.
because black Michelin Man would make America uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry that our country's racist.
I'll go along with that. There were a lot of areas of the rough terrain where there were still just wagon trails. So they were in the ruts of these wagon trails. So they bump along real slow, snail's pace. Not very many miles a day they would actually move. And constant repairs had to be made. Constant repairs. Their clutch would go out. On both of their speeds, on the high speed and the low speed, the clutch would constantly go out and
Granny
always
shifting, dude.
Yeah, and always need to be fixed. And it just happened so often. And in areas where there were no trails, they just had to sort of move in a general direction. So of course they got hopelessly lost.
Through the fucking woods and shit?
Well, this is we're starting to get into Northern California, out of the redwoods kind of an area. They also had to deal with the fact that most people that lived around these areas didn't actually know what the fuck they were talking about if you were going to ask them which way to go. Now, one such time they were given bad information.
Oh, El Dorado's right down.
Yeah. They were lost, totally lost, and they saw a woman with red hair on the back of a white horse.
She was glowing.
And they pulled up in their motor car, and they were like, hey, which way to the next town? I think the place is actually, incidentally, called Marysville, or something like that. I think it was called that. And they're like, which way? And she goes, right down that little road there. And they're like, thank you. And they drove down this road.
And then she laughed at the face of a skull.
They drove down it for hours. And if you think about it, like 20 miles an hour at max, right? Because, again, they're going through ruts. They're probably going slower than that. This is like 5 hours out of the way. It's 100 miles out of the way.
It's like driving through a parking lot for 5 hours.
Some people said it was 100 miles. Some sources said it was 100 miles.
That was a ghost.
So
I'm going to be honest.
So they're going down this road, and they're like, and it dead ends. And at the end of this road is a ranch house. And there's a family there that's like gawking at him. And they're like, hey, we're looking for this town. Which way to the town? And they're like, you're going to have to turn around the way you came and go back, and take this other route.
Wait, this family lived 100 miles away from a town?
Yeah, dude.
Also ghosts.
And so they're like annoyed, and they turn around, they go back,
They're
and
like,
they're
but the girl on the horse, like, oh, you mean Red Mabel? She's the fan with this county. And you're like, oh, okay.
We're also phantoms. Fuck yourself.
And it's like,
God
booga,
damn
booga,
it.
booga. And then they wake up driving down the road at nighttime, and they're
Yeah, that's exactly it, yeah.
Just like Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I know, I was thinking that too.
Well, as they're driving back down the road they had come, they see the woman on the horse.
that ghost.
They
Salting the shit out of the area.
Well, they stop and they go, hey, why did you lead us down this road? Why did you tell us to go down this road? I mean, it's not the way to the town we asked. And the woman goes, well, I wanted my mom, my pa, and my husband to see you because they had never seen an automobile before.
Oh.
And that was the whole reason why she sent them down the road.
That's some bullshit.
Just so they could see an automobile.
Jesus Christ.
And then she laughed and laughed and turned into 1,000 crows.
And there's like a tree with like a skeleton hanging from it.
Like, whoa!
Oh.
Best trick I've ever seen.
It's some David Blaine shit. Now, the trip was so dusty and bumpy that they didn't notice that as they were going, that all of their cooking equipment bounced off of the car
Nice.
as they were going. So all their pots and pans and all that shit bounced off the car. And by the time they realized that it was gone, there was no way they could turn back and
Didn't have
and
those
go
little
get it.
bungee cord things.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
now with. They also didn't have a fucking trunk you could throw it in.
No, they actually took off one of the smaller back seats and strapped all of it to it.
I just imagine all these like pots and pans hanging and just jangling, but like
it's Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah,
yeah.
As Zach said.
Also the monsters, I imagine.
Yeah.
So they lost all their cooking equipment. No cooking equipment. No pots.
Oh, I hung
no
it
pans.
on this bumpy ass road. I didn't think that would be an issue. This is the part I really like. These idiots.
No experience.
They trusted that ghost. I understand. I'm behind that.
No experience. They had no experience.
If the ghost was a crone, they would have trusted her for a second. It's because she was a babe.
That's why she showed up in Babe form.
Yeah.
It's like in the movie The Witch.
You only turn into a crone when you're letting them know that you tricked them.
Oh, you're fucked.
Now, when they arrived in Alturas, California, they wired for the fresh tires that would come by stagecoach.
We've seen 50 ghosts at this point.
They lost a bunch of days waiting for the tires, and of course they wrapped ropes around the wheels so they could move without the tires.
Let me just say, this is the genius of the interstate. Because you can just drive past all those ghosts. They can't flag you down. You don't even see the ghosts.
You're going too fast.
Blast past
flag
them.
you down.
You're like, oh, ghost woman on a horse. Now, fuck you. I'm going 60
I'm
miles
gonna blaze by you.
During the New Deal, FDR said, I'm sick of all these ghosts on the side of the road. We're going to build highways.
Past the ghosts.
The interstate was Eisenhower, but that's cool.
Was it?
We're gonna talk about it, Tyler.
Okay.
Anyway.
So Eisenhower was like, I'm sick of all these ghosts.
I'm silly with ghosts. Our nation is silly with ghosts.
Well, it's almost as if it was built on a Native American burial ground.
All of the United States is built on a Native American burial
Military
ground.
industrial complex and ghosts.
Yeah.
It's like our main thing.
Yeah. And installing dictators in countries. Now, Jackson would also lose 2 pair of glasses on the trip, and actually a fountain pen as well.
Oh,
As they're driving down the road.
Writing his memoir on the road.
And he's like, God damn it. Yeah.
Those are expensive. A good fountain pen is hard to find.
Yeah. And actually, when they were in Alturas waiting for the new tires, they actually took the townsfolk on little rides on the motor car in exchange for watching a Wild West show.
They're not in a hurry.
No.
Well, they're waiting for tires, and they figured may as well give a couple of people a ride around just in a couple of circles and watch a Wild West show.
Anything distract from that ghost family you just ran into.
Right.
And after waiting, more than 5 days, they decided to continue. Their next stop would be Burns, Oregon. That'd be the next place where they could meet up with the stagecoach to get their tires.
So close to the East Coast.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually been to Burns, Oregon. Have you been to Burns, Oregon, Chris?
I've been to so many places. I fucking know.
I kind of like Burns,
Where's
Oregon.
Burns, Oregon?
It's right smack dab in the middle of Oregon.
Wow.
Because I've been to.
It's in the desert.
Oh no! Fuck that shit. I'm a West Coast boy.
Yeah.
I grew up in North Bend, Oregon, right next to Coos Bay,
Well,
by the dunes.
Yeah. Ah, there you go.
I've been to Drain, Oregon.
Yeah.
Eugene.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's all.
I've never been to Portland. That is a lie.
Burns, Oregon actually had the added distinction of being the furthest town from railroads out of anywhere else in the United States.
That is an enormous thing to be proud of.
It was the most remote place in the United States at the time, in the lower 48.
That's been like, we don't have the internet.
We got nothing here.
You want cable? No.
Yeah.
You can't watch WWE.
Yeah.
I don't care how many times the Undertaker does a new thing where he traps somebody into a coffin.
Yeah.
I saw that so many times.
I like how we both said coffin at the exact same time.
That's all he did. It's like, fuck.
But before they made it to Burns, in the middle of the empty, vast interior of Oregon, the car failed to start.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't get a spark. Crocker, he worked on it, couldn't figure it out, and they saw a passing cowpuncher. I explained to you what a cowpunch is.
Oh, yeah.
But do it again for
Chris.
For Tyler's sake.
For Tyler's sake.
He said Chris, we both don't remember.
A cowpuncher is a guy that drives cattle. Cattle driver.
Punches him in the butt.
Yeah, both of us were like,
He's a cow punch.
fucking...
He's a cowboy. They saw him and they signaled him with a pistol. They shot it in the air, and he came over to him and
He's like, I see you shooting guns in the air.
Yeah.
I'm into this.
and he started shooting both of them in the air. Well, he lassoed the car basically, and tied it to a team of horses. They drug it to a nearby ranch. Towed it. Yeah. And Crocker could actually make repairs there. But it turned out that during this tow trip, it tore a piece in their fuel tank and drained all the gas they had in the fuel tank. So they had no more gas now, and they're stuck at this ranch. And so Jackson rented bicycle from the rancher, and he sent Crocker off to Burns, 25 miles away, by the way, to go get more gas.
I like how they made it all the way to Oregon.
Yeah, and so Crocker goes off on this bike, and the bike is, in several places, the bike is kind of useless, and he has to walk with it. And on his way back, of course, the rough terrain, because there's no roads, punctures his tires. So he has to walk. He has to walk with the bike and 4 gallons of gasoline, as well as the bike. So the bike kind of became more of a burden than anything else. Could you think about okay, gallons, right? Like, can you think about gallons of milk?
Yeah.
And you got 4 of them.
No, I know.
And you're pushing a bike.
I just started drinking the milk. I'd drink the milk to lighten the load, and
Well, this
it
is
also
gasoline.
filled my belly.
Yes, I was drinking gasoline.
In the middle of the barren Oregon desert, you know.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
By, Bend?
Yeah. Bend is a little further north, I think. But
I've been to Bend.
Burns is close to Bend.
I think I drove right past Burns, Oregon, last time I was driving through Oregon.
It's a small
Most people
place.
drive
I
right
like
past
Burns.
all that shit.
I like Burns. Now, by the time Crocker got back 2 days later, exhausted, he showed up with the gas and he's like, "Hey, you know how much this cost me? This cost me like $20, man. It's a lot of money for gasoline. 4 gallons of gasoline, $20 back in the day, a lot of money." But when they finally made it back on the road and finally were on their way to Burns, the newspapers, of course, found out that they were coming in a motor car because Crocker had been there. So the newspapers warned everybody, like, "Oh, if you want to see the automobile, you better get there early, and you better get there front row, because this automobile, when it comes by, it could come by at the speed of 90 miles per hour."
Oh, wow.
This is how little they understood automobiles.
Like,
It was the first car any of them would ever see. Anyone in the town of Burns.
Last car they'd ever seen.
First car. So they didn't know even how fast it was.
After
gonna
fucking
be.
Ringu finds them.
Yeah.
You know, class was canceled. You know, everybody stopped work and gathered around the street. And it was very disappointing for them because the car sputtered into town. And these 2, like, dirty dudes covered in dust came out and they're like, "All right, mechanical help. You know, I need mechanical help. Our wheels are fucked.
That
You know,
shit's
can
fucked."
can we, like, you know, get a blacksmith
Guys,
on
like,
this?"
you got a toilet with plumbing. It's gotta have plumbing. It's bad. It's bad.
It's
My
bad.
stomach's
I gotta
bad
take a
right
shit.
now.
Yeah.
I got a stomach ache. That's all I'm gonna say.
Stomach is fucked.
Yeah. But yeah, they paid blacksmiths to like give them like crude spare parts and stuff, and they would fail, of course, because they were made of iron. They weren't actually machined out of tempered steel or anything.
Yeah,
But
they're giving them fucking, broadswords and shit.
but they did finally get their new tires, all new tires, and they made their way from there. And actually, there was a farmer that. Because they would pass by like farmhouses and be like, "Hey, can we stay with you?" And back in the day, farmers, this is sort of a reoccurring thing. Farmers would be like, "Absolutely."
As long as you don't have sex with any of my hot dogs.
It's like, just don't look at my daughter.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
What was from
"I
The
love
Crushinator.
you, newbie," or
from
something like
Seinfeld?
that.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Well, the farmer, one of the farmers, showed him a place in the attic.
Oh.
And he goes,
"You're
know,
gonna get murdered up there."
Well, he goes, "You know, people been staying in my attic since the days of 49. You know, during the gold rush in 1849. And they're like, "Wow, okay." And they go up to the attic, and there's like a pile of rags in the corner. And they were like, "Okay, this is not good. And, like, when they heard him, like, snoring like asleep, they jumped out of the window and actually spent the night in the barn because it's way more comfortable there. You know, on hay and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're in a tight spot.
Yeah, exactly. And it was sort of around this time that towns started referring to them, to like, the automobile as the, quote, go-like-hell machine.
Whoa.
Because it goes like hell.
Dude, Meatloaf's gonna love that.
Yeah. Like a bird out of hell. Yeah, absolutely.
I love Meatloaf. I'm just putting that out there.
There were merchants that were enterprising and saw that whenever they were in need, they were going to jack up their prices, right? So they paid 3 times the amount for gasoline.
I thought they were going to get sponsors.
I like how the same shit happened in the Michelin episode, where they just ripped them off.
Yeah, they constantly got ripped off. And they had no choice. They had to get the gasoline. They had to get the oil and all these things. The Oregon desert was, again, horrible. And there was a certain point where they straight up ran out of oil for the car and it wouldn't start again. And this time...
Oil's the lifeblood of the car.
Yeah, and this time it was Jackson's turn to walk back to the town they'd just come from. Not Burns, but it was a town that doesn't exist anymore.
Are they still in Oregon?
Yeah, and he had to walk back, and it was miles away. Yeah. And he had to walk back to get oil for the car. And when he returned with the oil, they saw another guy on horseback that came up, and he was like, "Oh, well, you know what? You're only just outside of Vail, Oregon." They were just outside of Vail and had no idea. Beautiful. And they could have just walked straight into Vail. It cost them half the time, maybe even less.
Yeah. They
were just outside of Vail. And anyway, it was a very frustrating thing for them.
What the fuck is Vail?
It's on the eastern end of Oregon.
So they're almost out of Oregon.
Almost out of Oregon. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're almost to the East Coast now.
Yeah.
Small truck stop in Boise. Next thing you know, you're in Chicago.
Yeah. They also so once they made it out of Vail, they went to Ontario, Oregon, which is actually, for anyone that lives close to the Idaho border, like my hometown, and Idaho, which is very close to the Oregon border. Ontario is right there on the border, so that's where everyone buys their weed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You know, they're just giving tax dollar to Oregon, basically, because Idaho
Because they don't want to legalize weed.
They don't want to legalize weed, because Idaho
that would
has
cause problems.
Yeah. They went to Ontario, Oregon, and that's where they ordered some replacement parts and whatnot to meet up with them later on down the road. And they were actually ferried over the Snake River.
Yeah, I've been there.
This is the area I grew up in, is this sort of area. And it is
Snake River.
A desert. And
it's actually, there's no water in the Snake River. It's all snakes.
No.
That's not true. Somewhere around Caldwell, Idaho, place I've absolutely been.
This is why you're telling the story. You're like, I know these places.
Yeah. They stayed at a hotel there, and on their way out in the early morning, there was a guy that stopped them. And he said, "Hey, don't you need a mascot for your trip?" And he had a bulldog pup. Aww. It was like a bulldog mix. And Jackson was like, "Yes, I do." He bought the dog for $15.
Oh.
Named him Bud.
No,
and
Bud.
Now Jackson Crocker had a little dog with him named Bud. And the alkali desert actually irritated the dog's eyes quite a bit. Because, again, open top, no windshield or anything like that.
They didn't put doggy goggles?
Well, they got really red, so they gave him doggy goggles.
So cute.
Yeah, and there's pictures of Bud wearing the goggles. And honestly, Bud became just as much of an attraction as the automobile itself. So... yeah.
It's like,
Coast to Coast Hound. What, Spuds McKenzie?
Spuds McKenzie.
Dude, that dog looks to fucking party.
Looked a lot like Spuds McKenzie, honestly.
Was he actually supporting a beer? Or...
Yeah, Bud Light, I think.
Yeah. You know what I like was Bill the Cat. Remember that?
Bill the Cat?
From, it was from that comic strip,
Is it a beer one?
Garfield?
No, but it feels like the same. It's the same energy. Bloom County.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Remember that?
No.
Yeah.
The dog did get sick once from drinking the water underneath the car, but he recovered.
Drink all that antifreeze. It's
This is-
delicious. Dogs love it. It will kill them. Do not let them drink it.
This is one of the few episodes that we're going to talk about that they didn't have to kill and eat the dog.
Thank God.
So please, I just want to put you at ease right now. This is a palate cleansing episode. They didn't have to kill and eat the dog.
I'm starving. I'm gonna eat that dog right now.
Yeah, I was about to walk off set if this dog was going to get eaten.
Yeah.
Set. What am I saying?
Now, near Mountain Home, Idaho, another place I had to frequent as a child.
Nobody cares, Jerry.
It's just all places, I don't know, that I spent a lot of time in. They warned Jackson that the Oregon Trail was looking pretty rough these days.
Oh, yeah, dysentery. Snake bites.
Just
Diphtheria.
not super cool to drive down. But that was the only trail, was the Oregon Trail.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of shows you, like, the Old West meets the modern era. This is the clash between the untamed West and the modern era. You know what I mean?
They're like, people stopped taking that because they got sick of being eaten by cannibals. But if you guys want to do it,
There's no cannibals.
It's like what Red Dead Redemption is about. Is like
you weren't
Yeah.
there.
they're losing their livelihood because the world doesn't work anymore the way that they.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're old, they're outdated.
Yeah.
You know, they're dinosaurs. Around Haley, Idaho, which is near the Sawtooth Mountains, a beautiful place, by the way. I had a harrowing camping trip as a child there one time, but I highly recommend it to anyone. Camp up there. It's nuts. Anyway, they wired for more parts. This time from the factory, because these parts you could only get from the factory. And when they did this is when the Winton factory found out that somebody was driving across the country in one of their cars. And they were like, oh,
But they didn't
shit.
know already?
They didn't know yet. And now everybody knew. Once they found out, everybody knew.
whoa.
And they're like, oh, shit. You know, and, you know, the Wintons were like, should we do something? You know, should we
Give them
do that?
everything they need. It's
Yeah.
promotion.
Yeah,
Right.
and other car companies are like, now if we can beat them somehow, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it starts to cook at this point in everybody's heads, but they keep going, right?
Bit of a rat race.
Yeah. Now June 16th. So if you're counting from May to June, basically, this is how far they've made it. They've made it just to the eastern portion of Idaho. They were bumping along on the road again, and Jackson lost a jacket of his, and all of their money was in the jacket.
Oh, that sucks. Because I remember wearing those dope sunglasses I wore. I had that I bought at Reykjavik.
Yeah.
I lost those.
Boo. So, as soon as he could, he wired Bertha to send him more cash when they got to Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay, so they're getting there.
Yeah, and the thing is about Horatio Nelson Jackson is that he had this indomitable, optimistic spirit and wallet, but he would constantly say, you know, after everything that happened, he would write Bertha and say, the worst is over. Once this is done, we're going to make a record run. You know, and all this stuff, you know. He was so optimistic. And because he didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
He was rich and nothing bad had ever happened to him.
Yeah,
Right, I know.
yeah, exactly.
Just completely ignorant of the situation.
Yeah. And yeah, so they went through Soda Springs, Idaho as well.
What flavor?
Soda Springs, it's a place actually with a lot of hot springs, surprisingly.
None of them
but
cola.
No Dr. Pepper there.
Lots of mellow yellow, though.
Yeah. Useless. You wouldn't want to drink it. They would, again have to wait for the train to bring them parts. Cost them days. When they actually got into Wyoming, they got hopelessly lost again. They got lost for 36 hours. And 36 hours with no food or anything. And they didn't have cooking utensils or anything like that. And Jackson even said, like, Crocker and I were looking at Bud and tightening our belts.
No.
Oh, jeez.
Those ghosts sent him down the wrong way again.
Yeah. Ghosts want them to eat their dog. Make that dog a ghost.
Yeah. So they were starving. They found a sheep rancher who was sort of a hermit. He hadn't seen another human being in 3 weeks. And when they showed up, he gave them this great meal, lamb and all this stuff. And they were so grateful that Jackson wanted to give him he wanted to give him a gun, And he goes, man, if the guy asked for my car after that meal, I may have given it to him. You know what I mean? Like, they were so grateful to get that meal.
But instead, that he decided to give him a fast and loose. Under the table.
Sexual favors.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page.
Yeah.
You're just mashing it.
I'd give you a fucking hand job. I could give you a gun. He's like, I got guns.
But I ain't got hands.
I need no hands.
What? They're both hooks, and then they woke up on the road like.
Once they left, though, like almost immediately, a couple of ball bearings burnt out, and they had to go back to the rancher. And Jackson was like, "Give me the ball bearings out of your mower, man." And so he was like, "Yeah."
Are they the same size? Like,
yeah.
Ball bearings, I feel like back in the day, just were.
It was just regular ball.
Everything had ball bearings.
Yeah, well, the wheels are the same, things like that. So yeah, they got him. They got on the road again, and as they were sort of moving through, I think they were moving through Wyoming when they saw a guy and his family in a covered wagon, and they were going to settle like the last available land of the West. Like, this is, again, people are still settling the West, man. And getting free land from the government to settle the West.
And they're driving by like, auga.
Well, and they pull up, they're driving the car, and this guy is so terrified that he unhitches his horses and tells his family to hide under the wagon because he thought that the train had come off its tracks and we're going to run him over.
Oh,
and they were so terrified.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, they were so terrified.
Like, there's no horse running that.
Yeah,
that's a train.
That's a train, and it's coming right for us.
Oh, they should eat that family.
And as they went by him, they scared the horses, and the horses ran for miles away. And he was like, that sucks for that guy, but
that family died.
Yeah,
that whole family died out there.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah,
we don't know their name.
It would have been a mercy for them to get out of their car and say, "We are men from the future. Give us all your food." We need it in the far-flung...
That family didn't make it.
Yeah.
With a dad like that, no way, no how.
When you start to cross the plains and the Midwest, you run into these things called buffalo wallows. And this was particularly a wet summer. And it rained, and it rained.
So the buffalo wallows are a rain?
It's deep mud holes.
Because I thought somebody was like, "You want some buffalo wings?"
No, that'd be dope.
They're drowning in buffalo sauce.
No, they got
spice.
They're burying their car in mud, and they're constantly using the block and tackle. They got people to help them pull it out, of mud. But it was they almost never drove the car. They're always just pulling it out. Sometimes digging with their hands to get all the mud out of there. Sometimes they were taking sagebrush, like ripping sagebrush out and putting it under the wheels for traction.
I'm gonna be honest, if I was the rival power plant owner that bet against them, for The Simpsons, I'd be like, "You guys have been cheating this whole time, and dragging it, and digging it out. Like, fuck that, you didn't make it."
They took a car. Come on, man.
They brought a car from A to B.
If that was the case, just put the car on a train.
I'd argue it.
No.
You're right.
Let me get into this.
What's the difference?
Let me get it. We're gonna get into it. The buffalo wallows were terrible. In one day, they had to use the block and tackle to get them unstuck 18 times.
Jesus.
In one day. The amount of work had to be nuts. And, they're running out of food and stuff, and they knocked on a door at one point, and a woman answered the door, and they're covered in mud and
they
shit.
ate that woman.
Well, as soon as they said,
nice.
"Can we please have food?" the woman slammed the door in their face
That's what I would have done.
and said, "We don't give handouts."
America.
Presuming a good Christian woman. Yeah.
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 She's
From what-
fucking dead now.
Do you remember?
Take that.
I mean, you guys
lady.
all remember in the Bible where Jesus Christ was like, the poor were like, please, we're starving. And they're like, lazy fucking poor.
We
don't
don't
give
give
handouts. Look at the
here."
Caesar. Does he
Yeah.
look like he's asking
Yeah.
for anything? The Caesar is a good Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mother Teresa.
Yeah, Mother
Anyway.
Teresa.
She's like, you can die here if you'd like. Anyway.
If you'd like to die.
I'd love to watch you die.
There was even a guy that charged these guys $1 a gallon back in the day.
Whoa.
Yeah, $5 for 5 gallons of gasoline. They felt so ripped off. It was one of the stories they told for the rest of the time. They were like, my God, I knew there was a danger we could have been robbed.
Yeah.
But the only time we were actually robbed is when we were charged $1 a gallon.
And we
for
thought it was that
gasoline.
bad with that Biden inflation. You know what I'm saying?
Look at those gas prices, guys.
Yeah, what is this? The Obama administration? Waka waka.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah,
That's what they say. I don't know why
that's
they
what
keep
they
saying
said.
Waka Waka.
yeah, it's because they're Fosse the Bear.
Yeah.
Hardcore conservative
Fart shows.
radio pundit Fosse the Bear.
Oh, God. Around this time, Winton was thinking about sponsoring them and being like, let's give them everything they need
Fucking finally.
to get across the country. Mm-hmm. You know, and when they made it to Omaha,
Oh,
Nebraska,
Nebraska.
there was a official from Winton like, well, we're going to give you everything you need to make it across the United States because this could be a marketing bonanza for us.
A banner situation for everyone.
Yeah, a bully year because the president was Theodore Roosevelt.
I mean,
So
I
it's
imagine that.
a bully thing.
A bully.
The bully. I'm a bully.
And at the same time, TR was doing his whistle stop tour through the western states, but he had personal chefs and stuff. He actually gained weight.
Captain America would hate him because he's a bully.
Yeah. They actually refused. They refused. They were like, we made it this far with nothing but ourselves.
My wife's money.
Yeah. Indeed.
No thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you. So they didn't
It's
do it.
capitalism.
Yeah, and honestly, the Winton Motor Carriage Company was like, you know what? It's actually better if we don't sponsor them, because that means that just somebody chose our car, and an amateur drove it across the United States. That shows more so for our car than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But what they wouldn't find out until a little later is that the Packard Motor Company and the Oldsmobile Company,
Oh, no.
they wanted to try to race them. So they sent their cars, both at slightly different times, across the United States to try to beat Jackson.
You know what's
In
really
his
going to win
engine.
this race? Automation.
Yeah.
That's why Ford won.
Yeah.
In the long run.
Well,
And I drive a Ford.
Yeah, the thing was about the Packard and the Oldsmobile. The Oldsmobile and the Packards were retrofitted with bigger gas tanks.
Mm-hmm.
The Oldsmobile had sand tires to make it through the sands of the Nevada desert, so they could make more of a straight shot across the country, and they wouldn't have to take a detour of thousands of miles in between.
So you're saying competition breeds innovation?
Yeah. And
Capitalism.
yeah, the Packard Motor Company, actually, they were traveling with an official mechanic from the motor company that really knew the car inside and out. Not a bicycle mechanic like Crocker. They actually had all their shit shipped ahead of them on train cars. So when they'd show up to town, they had all their shit there. They
Big
didn't have to
crew.
carry it. Yeah, they didn't have to carry it on the car with them like Jackson and Crocker did. It was all shipped ahead for them. And sometimes some of the guys would just ride the train. Like they were cheating. They were cheating more so. You know what I mean?
You gotta cheat. That's
Yeah.
part of the game.
Right.
In fact, the biggest thing that shows you that they were gonna have an easier time is they packed a bunch of beer with them.
I've
Cool.
been there.
Yeah.
I want to
Gotta
hang out
have
with
beer for
those
the
guys.
road, man.
Yeah, they had road beers. A
I mean,
shit ton of them.
When you're driving on a road trip, you gotta have beer for the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just safe.
Yeah.
You gotta drink while you drive. No, don't do that.
You
at
have to
home-
have a crazy straw.
Yeah.
If you're
Or your
gonna,
beer.
everyone at home, if you are gonna drink and drive, make sure to gun it so you're off the road before I get there.
And turn off the headlights so no one can see you.
That was from
And
what's his fucking name? That Martin Short had that guy. The high
Jiminy
yeah.
Jiminy Glick.
Jiminy Glick said that.
Dude, Jiminy Glick is the best thing Martin Short's ever done. Now, after the Buffalo Wallows, which were horrid, I mean, just constantly digging the car in and out of deep, deep mud patches, the trip...
Deep buffalo sauce.
Yeah.
That's
Thick,
what I'm
thick
picturing.
gravy.
Just red, like
thick
Frank's
gravy.
Red Hot. They're just
Ooh,
powering.
that's
through it.
tasty.
I love Frank's Red
Yeah.
Hot.
Oh, you know what I pictured, Chris?
Mm.
Was a mountain of mashed potatoes,
Ooh.
gravy, and maybe a little bit of Frank's Red Hot on top.
Ooh, yeah.
Which I didn't think about doing until just now, and now I think I
Put
gotta
Frank's
try.
Red Hot on a sandwich.
Dude, I put Frank's Red Hot on damn near
welcome to the
everything.
Frank's Red Hot cast.
Yeah,
Sponsored by Frank's Red Hot.
I'd be fine with
craving
that. It's a great product, and I would
a
love
great
to
condiment.
support it.
Yeah. Sponsor us, Frank's Red Hot, please. Anyway,
Hashtag just Frank's.
yeah. The trip actually got a little easier for a couple of reasons. The train became a little easier to drive across. It didn't rain as much. Because, in these early cars, if it rained and it got muddy, you're pretty much fucked.
It's a good idea to go to Oregon then.
Yeah. And the roads became more frequent. You know what I mean? More roads. They start seeing more roads.
He was right when he did the hardest part first.
Yeah, it is true. That much is true. He kind of stopped writing to Bertha, who he affectionately called, for unknown reasons, he called Swipes.
Aww.
He would say, "My darling Swipes."
That's in between. That's for the two of them.
Oh yeah, we have no idea why you called her that.
It's like Anakin calling what's her name?
Snips.
Steps.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Swipes, my darling Swipes. And he would say, like, we're doing well, old girl. Like, he would say shit like that, where it's like, yeah, you wouldn't want to call your wife that in 2021 times, old girl, and...
I mean, swipes. I mean,
I call my
Swipes
wife
is fun.
Swipes, but that's because we met on Tinder.
That's not a lie.
I mean, you don't call her that, but you did. Yeah.
Yeah, now you do. But yeah, calling your wife old girl,
You old piece of
like
shit.
like a horse or something. I
Like
mean,
a warship that runs on steam.
you old girl. Yeah, and he... oh,
slaps
God.
her side as hard as he can.
This is my old girl.
But they
my
are-
old reliable.
But they are very sweet letters, and again, I might read those for a Patreon thing
Oh, you are.
because they're very sweet letters.
Now you have to.
Yeah, I think
You
I
want
do
us
have
to
to
all get
now.
rock hard listening. to talk to his wife.
I can't wait to hear this vintage erotica.
Yeah. But they could actually they were actually more able to kick it into like a higher gear and maybe even see that top speed of 30 miles an hour.
Ooh.
You know, I mean, that's how slow they're going. They might be going 20. They might be going 15. You know.
I mean, it's something
they're
that
probably
they're probably going.
They might
could
be-
walk fast.
I mean-
Oh yeah, they could walk faster. Yeah.
They might be going 20. They might be going 30. The car doesn't have a speedometer. They don't know.
They have a chronometer. You know, just tells
A
you how
clock.
many. How many. Oh yeah, sorry. Chronometer, I think is what they called it back in the day. It just told you how many miles you had gone in a certain
And
time.
then they get
But
out a
broke it.
sundial and they do some math and they figure out how fast they're going.
Yeah.
They broke it in a drunken rage.
They broke it going down the rough terrain. So there were bigger crowds and you know, more fanfare to see them the closer they got to the East Coast. You know, Jackson got really good at talking with newspapers and everything like that. He became a showman. But one thing that sort of happened was there was a guy in a horse carriage, and he was not really looking at the car. He didn't really see the car as they pulled up on him. And once he saw the car, he kind of like tried to turn his carriage in a certain way, you know, to kind of give them the right of way. But the car turned in the same direction,
Oh, fuck.
and they both kind of like came together in like this awkward, confusing.
A collision.
They
What you're saying is
sort
a
of-
collision.
They sort of had a collision.
Okay.
No one was hurt. Nothing was
What about
hurt.
the horse?
Nothing was
Okay.
hurt. No one was hurt. it was just a bunch of people cursing at each other, basically.
Mhm.
But
Been there.
that was like one of the things that was like of incident that happened as they were just making their burn through the Midwest, basically. And of course, everyone wanted a picture of Bud, and pictures of them with the car and with Bud and all that stuff. And there was, a bunch of, mud on the car, and Jackson was like, "We're not washing it off. We got the mud from all the states we've traveled on." You know what I mean?
Nice.
Mhm.
As they're going through, and he just got more optimistic. Jackson did. They started making a lot better time going through. Once they got to Chicago.
Hey, they got to Chicago,
the
like you
Windy City.
said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pump the windows and knock it over.
Yeah, they were met with great fanfare there.
Dakar.
Dakar. Not to say that, the car still broke down, because it did still break down. They just kind of knew what they were doing more. And it was easier for them to fix. The clutch would break still constantly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The tires would go flat constantly, and they would have to repair them.
They needed 10,000 hours to get good at it. The 10,000 hours they spent was entirely in Oregon.
Yes.
Right.
Then they actually made it to Cleveland, which is where the car's birthplace was. And the Winton Motor Company, they cleaned it up a little bit, but Jackson was like, "Don't you wash that mud off. I'm gonna take that all the way to Vermont with me. Don't you wash that mud off." So they cleaned all the important parts, and
that mud.
he wrote Swipes, his wife, and said, "We're almost there. We're making a record time."
Well, yeah, I mean, the record time could be any amount.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no record
yeah.
set.
But he keeps saying it.
I mean, if you took a million years at this point,
Yeah,
right.
it would be a record time.
Yeah, he says a couple of times these kind of prophetic words. He says like, "Just watch me now come to you." It's I don't know. It's really,
Don't stop
really
me
beautiful.
now.
Yeah,
I'm having such a good time.
yeah.
I'm having a ball.
That's what the song's about.
Yeah.
Just
It's not
watch me
about
now.
gay sex.
Whoa!
Whoa.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean, it's probably what the song's about. I mean, it's
It
Freddie
is.
Mercury.
I've always assumed that, and that's why I
Yeah.
like that song.
Unless Brian May wrote the song, then it's just about having a good time.
In space.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Brian May is an astrophysicist.
Ah, yes. He's talking about space. But he basically stopped writing a lot of letters because he was just anxious to get there.
Mhm.
And he put his wife up in a New York hotel, and he's like, "We're going to be there soon." From Cleveland, they went to Buffalo, and the only thing, because they didn't want to go over the Pennsylvania mountains there, because they had enough of mountains. So
I'm
they
sick of these fucking.
think we
yeah,
all
so
have.
they detoured a little bit up into Buffalo, and the only thing that really happened to them is they hit something in the road, and all of them were thrown out of the car.
It was a
Like,
buffalo.
Whoa.
Yeah,
It was a buffalo.
they don't know. They don't say what it was, but they were thrown out of the car.
Banjo,
The dog,
an Appalachian banjo player.
yeah, the dog, Crocker, everybody, they were all thrown out of the car. Luckily, nothing was damaged, no one was hurt, and they were able to continue on. The Vermont, on July 26th, 1903, 63 days, 12 hours, and 30 minutes, they pulled into New York City
Ah.
and became the first people to cross the continent by automobile.
Dope.
Auga!
Yeah, and they won the bet.
And they ran directly into Roscoe Conklin.
Yeah, that's how he died. Not in the snowstorm, but by being run down by this car.
So he was very, very old.
Yeah. He met his wife there. His father was there. There was a big, media circus. Everyone wanted to interview them and take pictures of the dog and whatnot.
They couldn't even get a picture because everyone was just showing their titties and their dicks off.
There was actually someone who served them with court papers because while on the road,
Seth Rogen.
while they were on the road, it's a woman who did it.
You
but
better serve.
Men.
while they were on the road, Jackson had bought Bertha a dress for their anniversary by cable. And he was served papers because there was a disgruntled dressmaker that had not been paid.
Oh no!
And so he got the papers, and he was like, "We're not going to court. Here's the money. Take off." He
He's
said
like,
it was
"Honey,
unjust.
can you send me some money? I
That's
gotta
what's
pay
gonna
for this. I gotta pay for this
Pay
gift I
your
got for you."
dress. Yeah,
Just settle out of court, like what Disney's going to do with
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson.
yeah. So, so what happened is that Crocker stayed in New York City. Jackson and Bertha and Bud drove up to Vermont. And that trip from New York to Vermont took them 1 week, and had all the troubles that the previous trip had taken. Their low-speed clutch broke. Their high-speed clutch broke. Their battery housing, I think it was the battery housing, broke as well. I think they had a flat tire as well. It took them 1 week to go there. It just constantly broke down. Once they got to Burlington, Vermont, which is where they lived.
With the coat factories.
Yeah.
They wanted to meet Bernie Sanders. He was 27 at the time.
Both of Jackson's brothers, who were actually politicians in Vermont at the time, they pulled up in their own motor cars to help him.
To measure dicks.
To fix the car. And as they're going through, they
Some real
escorted
blue
him.
bloods, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah, they escorted him through downtown Burlington when one of his brother's cars broke down.
Nice.
And so the Vermont towed it back to Jackson's house. And once they got into the driveway of his own home, the chain drive broke.
Oh,
Which was the last thing that was probably not replaced on the car. It's probably the only original piece
But he made
still on it.
It's a
You
real.
know, it broke.
it made it.
Up until the very end, yeah.
Wow.
That's cool. That's cooler than if it didn't break.
I know, right? The fact that it broke right there at the end.
That's kind of badass.
It's
kind of one of the most common pieces to break on those old cars.
He's like, I said he as if it's a
car.
man.
Yeah.
But the car's like, and that's it.
And
I
that's
was
all I got.
holding it on this whole time.
With spit and fucking hope.
Elbow grease.
Elbow grease, yeah. To wrap up, the other guys would make it, the people in the Packard would make it in less time, but they wouldn't be the first. The Oldsmobile guys dipped their tires in the Atlantic Ocean to say that they were the first sea-to-sea, people.
Fuck that.
It's so dumb.
Pieces of shit.
Yeah. Jackson was, of course, still the first. And, people probably from the Packard Motor Company said, I think they had people shipped in front of them, or even he was. And Jackson himself put up a $12,000 bounty saying anyone with credible information saying that I was a fraud can come forward and claim this bounty.
Yeah.
And no one came forward.
That's a confident move.
Yeah,
Nice.
no one
Yeah.
came forward. Alexander Winton himself, he would go on to set a couple of speed records for the time, taking one of his own cars at an unprecedented 80 miles per hour in an 8-cylinder car that he had
Ooh.
made. He also invented, a little before this, but he raced Ransom Olds of the Oldsmobile car company at a place that no one knew yet in Florida called Daytona Beach,
Not familiar.
which would become the
Yeah, I got it.
Daytona 500 race. As his cars became too expensive and more people started buying cheaper, more like prosumer cars, I guess, for the lack of a better term, he had to close down his...
You know what would work really well? A production line.
Yeah, absolutely. A assembly line. He closed down his operation in the mid-1920s. So no more Wintons from then on. The silent partner in all of this that was never quoted directly except for one time Jackson said, "He is a mighty good man," Sewell K. Crocker. He parted ways in New York, and he was trying to garner some deals with some New York newspapers to maybe go on another tour, maybe even around the world in a motor car.
Ooh.
And which would be done at one point.
I mean, you have to take it on a ferry.
A story for a different day. It never really came to fruition. He did do a bit of a European tour, but he was called back early. And the reason why he was called back early from his European tour...
The war.
Yes.
The war, yeah.
Oh my god!
I thought it was like...
But not World War One.
World War Deuce.
No.
Korea.
No.
Spanish American?
No.
Okay, I give up.
Vietnam.
No.
Afghanistan.
No.
The war on drugs?
No.
The war on drugs.
1812.
No.
No.
He was called.
100 Years War.
He was called back from his European tour prematurely because of his family was worried about some of his land in Mexico during the Mexican Revolution.
Oh, shit!
And this, he went back to see about it. Because of this, he suffered a nervous breakdown. Mm-hmm. And he moved back to Tacoma. And tragically, at the age of 30, he passed away.
Yeah, died at a chain restaurant.
Yeah, very young. Very young. He died.
He was at the Red Lobster.
The Denny's in a back booth.
He lived the way he died.
Yeah.
God, I wish I loved
Drinking a cocktail that's too sweet while eating shrimp that's too salty and some bread that's overrated.
I would love to die in a Denny's booth.
Yeah.
I can imagine him dying at the old Chuck E. Cheese over there.
In the
Is
ball
that still
pit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ball pit. They
ball
just
pit.
let the corpse float to the bottom and let the kids find it.
Yeah. Ew, I stepped through a chest cavity.
Oh, Jesus.
It's been down there a while.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
But
Into a chest cavity.
yeah.
You found the spooky mummy at the... Call the fucking cops.
Yeah.
Call the police.
Yeah. You get 1,000 tickets and whatever you want from our gift shop.
If
Anyway.
you fucking stay silent.
Yeah.
And then you sign this NDA.
Shit, yeah. Now say you can't sue us. But this trip, it made by a non-expert. It changed the public perception of cars forever,
Oh, good.
setting the stage for better and for worse. Its dominance in freedom and mobility to the American people that really latched their cultural identity onto the automobile from henceforth, and created the American tradition of the road trip.
Cool.
And banging in cars.
Finding Paradise by the Dashboard Lights.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes indeed.
Appreciate another Meatloaf reference.
Oh, yes.
I've been saving that one.
I love the Meatloaf references. And also spurred the nation on to improve and build better roads for people to go and take their automobiles across our country.
Cool.
So when do we talk about the Crash Test Dummies?
Once
the band.
There was a girl who got into an accident. Yeah, okay.
And
That's basically all of
You
their
sounded
song.
just like him.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about my past life.
I like the,
Used to be the singer
Weird
of
Al.
Crash. Now, Horatio Nelson Jackson didn't stop there, though. He went on to own several lucrative businesses, manufacturing business. He became a bank president at one point. Again, his brothers were all politicians. One of them was a Vermont governor, not consecutively, but was a Vermont governor. One of them, I think, ran for president. And actually, Horatio Nelson Jackson ran for Vermont governor unsuccessfully at one point. But when World War I broke out, Horatio Nelson Jackson, despite the fact that he was in his 40s, wanted to join. And he actually petitioned an aging Teddy Roosevelt to go. And he did.
Did he die there?
No.
Wow.
No. He became...
president.
He was in a medical... Because he was a doctor,
Yeah.
Jackson was. He was in a medical division. And he was under constant heavy machine gun fire and bombs. He was in the shit.
Yeah.
And he got the Distinguished Service Cross, the Purple Heart, the Croix de Guerre, and the Legion of Honor from France. 2 medals from France and 2 from the United States. And he actually helped found the American Legion in the United States.
Huh.
You know, so you know the American Legion. That
Yeah,
was
the baseball league. I got it.
that was part Horatio Nelson Jackson.
So he's responsible for the American Legion halls where all the shitty hardcore bands play.
I guess so, yes.
Okay, cool. Just double checking.
He was a colonel in the reserves as well. And the thing is after his whole trip and all this stuff, and of course Bud lived with them into old age. Bud died of natural causes, I will have you know.
That's good.
For the first fucking time, we have a dog dying of natural causes in our show.
The dog died in his sleep surrounded by loved ones, you assholes.
We made it! We did it!
Yay!
But Horatio Nelson Jackson actually got a speeding ticket in Burlington for going over the speed of 6 miles an hour.
Yeah.
In his famed motor car, which he later donated to the Smithsonian Museum, where it is to this day.
Ooh.
No.
Yeah, it's like the original Sammy Hagar song, I Can't Drive 6.
Yeah. But Horatio Nelson Jackson died on January 14th, 1955.
Wow.
At a ripe
He
old age.
can't live past 55!
But yeah, it not only created these sort of modern age of automobiles and road trips and the highway system. He was sort of a catalyst of all these things. And granted, if not him, it would have been someone else. But he was the one. He was the first one, and he has that honor.
Well,
even though people made it in less
fucking cool.
time, he still did it. You know,
He did it first.
and he did it without any help. No help. It was just him and Crocker and the dog, of course.
And all those people who shipped out parts to him.
Who helped him?
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't have people waiting for him.
Magellan
You know,
didn't have parts shipped
he
out.
had
to him,
to-
That's all I'm saying.
He had to wait for the train because they didn't know what was coming. You know, they didn't know what bad things are going to happen to them. Whereas the Packard Motor Company, they were like, we're just going to have parts waiting for you. We're going to have a mechanic that's certified waiting for you. They didn't have anything like that. They were like, all of our tires are fucked. Let's get more tires, and we're going to have to wait for fucking 5 or 6 days for the stagecoach or railroad to show up with our goddamn tires.
Yeah, fuck all that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So there you go. And I have a couple more stories of the road for you, just before we get into some heavier shit.
Oh, we're gonna stay on the road?
Coming up?
Yeah, coming up, we got some heavy shit, but before that, we got a couple more stories of the road that really go with this.
Like the book.
We learned a lot today about
Old cars,
old
old-timey.
cars, Bill the Cat from Bloom County.
I like hearing stories that are inspiring stories that are like American classics that I later on don't find out that like he was a racist and he fucking was a murderer and like, you know, like it's like so much of our history is finding out about dudes that seem cool, then you later on find out they're huge pieces of shit.
Well,
this guy seems alright. Please don't give me any more information on him, Jerry.
Wait till you hear about what he thought about the Jews.
I know.
I will say there's no record of him being anti-Semitic or racist, but I mean let's. The thing is even in our time, our education system has us in such a state of mind that if you don't go outside of this educational system, you are by default racist by what you learn. And don't bristle at that. Read books. Learn about history because these, and true and real history, because that is what will get you out of that, right? Mm-hmm. And not saying that it's always going, it will actually fix your predilections, because it won't. But maybe we can cause future generations to learn history correctly and maybe not be inherently racist as our society continues to be.
Did you guys hear that Texas got rid of teaching slavery in their public schools?
Yeah, that's
I've heard a
fucked. That's
bunch
a
of
step
shit.
in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just...
Well, it's exactly like what I was gonna say is something. That's exactly the issue. Is something you said on the last episode, where the definition of stupidity, when the information is available and you choose to reject it.
Yes.
That's where you go from ignorance to stupidity.
Yeah.
When you
willful ignorance is stupidity.
and it's the exact same thing. Where it's like the more you learn, the more less racist you're going to be. Frankly.
I guess understanding where people are coming from, understanding like the context of the time, understanding why things are the way they are, will do us all a lot of good as a society, honestly.
We are the History Boys. Thank you for listening. I am Christopher Whedon, as always sitting next to my good friend
Tyler Armentrout, who is one step at a time, benevolently and humorously, but not purposely humorously, because I'm not doing the comedy thing anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to crack wise
You
anymore.
didn't say a single funny thing this whole time.
I
It's
didn't.
like, what I've always said about you, Tyler, is you're the funniest person I've ever met. 50% of it, unintentional.
Yeah, well,
And
I'd
you
hope-
really went with that 50% this time.
I hope that I went 100% unintentional today.
100% was that 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So 150%.
150%
Yeah,
unintentional.
math, guys.
I am Zach Meck, the mathematician and history boy. I'm also a very hungry and sleepy boy, and I can't wait to have myself a quesadilla and then wrap myself in my blanket like a burrito. It'll be great.
Like a warm burrito.
Burrito.
And I am Jerry Nash, your history boy, as always. Thank you so much for listening. We love you, dear listener, each and every one of you, especially all of our Patreon pals that we have. Zach, there are levels, right? We've gone over the levels. Let's not go over the levels anymore. We don't have to do the levels.
No. But we do have a new Patreon pal.
We do!
We got a new Patreon pal, so everyone, please welcome Bernie!
Bernie!
Woo!
I once again asked for, you know the ad with Bernie
yeah.
Sanders. It's not Bernie Sanders, but it's a different Bernie. But welcome to the Patreon fold. Welcome to the Discord fold. And it's great having you there. We love having you there and all of your
100%.
hijinks and japes.
100%.
Oh my god, the hijinks alone.
Yes.
The shenanigans.
Oh
my
my god, the
the
shenanigans.
next Beers with the Boys is going to be a lot of fun with Bernie around, I can already tell. And if you want to be a part of the Beers with the Boys and all that stuff, certainly $1 a month can get you there. But something that doesn't cost you any money, not a cent, that helps us out as much as any dollar amount, is to write us a review on wherever you're allowed to write reviews. Write us a positive 5-star review, because that's what really helps us out. If you're going to write us a 1-star review, please go and fuck yourself. But please write us a 5-star review. That's what really helps us. And you won't be mocked by us behind the scenes. Yes, it doesn't cost you a dime to do that. Also follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, because there you'll see the limited number of pictures that we can put out at this point, because they are public domain pictures. And of course, you'll find out our things about our live shows. You can interact with us there as well. If you say something to us on Twitter, we will absolutely respond to you, and you can speak with us there, as well as our Discord as well. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Mr. Zach, do the thing.
Love you, bye!
This is really all the same thing.